Hi, welcome to our presentation all about shin splints. So as we know, they can sort of become a major issue with runners. So we're going to look into it in a little bit more detail for you. So just to give you a little bit of a background on me, part of my client basis, and we've worked with three GB athletes who have all been sort of at the top of their game. And now within the studio, I want to help everyday people get their goals they desire. So you're all working to your own individual potential. From a qualification point of view, I've got my degree in sports development and coaching. I have my personal training diploma, sports massage qualifications. I'm a running technique coach and I'm a world obstacle course coach as well. Standout moments for me are taking part in Spartan races and doing the World OCR Championships as well. So, some things to really think about. You might already know a lot of the information that I'm giving you in this presentation, but are you putting it into practice? So if you have got shin splints or have they become an issue, are you doing everything? So try not to skip out any of the elements or you won't see any of the results. And also have a think about what barriers you're facing. So if you're not doing it, why is it that you are not doing it? Are you just putting it off or are there other things getting in the way? So the main thing to think about are what are shin splints. So in general, they're a term for most lower leg pain. So for example, it's a pain that you usually feel down the front of your shin. So the muscle feels very full and a sort of a pushing sensation. So in a way, it's that the bone, muscle, nerves or fascia have been injured in some way. And the areas that are affected most commonly is the anterior compartment syndrome. So the muscles that are included are your tibialis anterior. This leads to then increased resistance when you're dorsiflexing your foot, so when you're pointing your foot up, and that then creates that swelling feeling. Now there is also posterior compartment syndrome and lateral compartment syndrome. So depending on whether or not it's then the side of your leg that's affected or the back of your shin that is affected. And there would be specific muscles relating to each of those. Now that's what we'd look at from sort of a training point of view, and making sure that you are given the right exercises in the studio would be first looking at which muscle groups are the ones that are affected. So a couple of the common causes, it's when the muscle is compressing against the bone, and this is causing then the inflammation, or you've got direct pressure of the muscle on the bone leading to a stress fracture, and inflammation of the muscle fascia. So remember that muscle fascia is the casing of the muscle. So if that is getting extra pressure put on it, that would then create the inflammation, which would lead to more pain. So what can cause shin splints? It's usually a sudden change within your training. So for example, lots of running on hard ground, high impact work, an increase in weights, you've been directly hit on that area, or sort of a long-term rest is needed because of that. You might find if you've done like a gait analysis, your hips dropping when you're running, or you could be overstriding when you're running. So you're landing more on your heel rather than keeping your leg nicely underneath your body, which again would create less pressure through your feet and then through your shins. So what does it all mean if you've got one of these causes? Now this is what we're going to look into and try and break things down a bit. So you're definitely going to need to change something. Now it's going to be whether or not you need to mix the surfaces that you're running on, check the shoes that you're wearing, so remember to regularly change them. Go and get a gait analysis done or have somebody look at your technique. This could be as simple as just videoing yourself running and getting a friend to look at it for you, or say going and seeing a trainer, for example come into the studio and we'd go through sort of your running technique. Look at taking shorter steps, that way you're going to be keeping your feet and your legs stride underneath you, so therefore you're increasing your cadence. Look at strengthening your adductors and glutes. Now within runners we always say if you've got weak glutes there's going to be issues somewhere. Now that weak glutes and strengthening your adductors, that's going to come in from that hip drop. So if things are lowering down, strengthening those is going to mean you're much more balanced when you're running. Look at relaxing your posture. So shoulders back, you're not rounded or hunched. And look at your body alignment. So when you're running, you're nice and upright and tall, rather than, as we just mentioned, being slouched over. So we're going to look at a few exercises and stretches that you could be doing that will help you. Now, try and do all of these to make sure you get a really good result. So trigger point work. Now, for the trigger point ball, you want to have the ball pressed against the side of your leg. We're looking at just underneath your knee, and you'll feel sort of the top of your tibialis anterior. Now within there, gentle massage and then press the ball onto that area. And that'll give you a good focus for that trigger point work. And again, remember, hold it on 10 seconds or so, let it release, and then press it on again. You can also work around the back onto your gastrocnemius and down your perineals if you're finding that it's more lateral pain or posterior pain. Foam rolling. So where I put the trigger point first, but foam rolling you can always do beforehand to kind of highlight any areas of pain before you move on to the ball. But your foam rolling is good to do every day before or after you work out as well. So you want to make sure your knees are bent and your shins are on top of the foam roller, and then you're just going to gently roll forwards and backwards, making sure that you don't go over your ankles or above your knees. Stretching, similar position as you were with your foam rolling, however this time you want your feet nice and flat, and then you're going to sit backwards and lower yourself down onto your heels, pressing your feet, ankles and shins into the ground. And again, look, holding that for sort of 20 to 30 seconds and then just release it before you repeat it again. And of course, exercise and strengthening. So a good one to do is heel walking. So you want to lift your toes up so you're balancing on your heels and then just gently walk around. Now what I'd say is look for doing 15 to 20 steps, then relax your feet down and then repeat it again. So this is going to be that bit of when you're dorsiflexing your feet, so you're pointing your toes up, and would then be strengthening that tibialis anterior, so that front of your shin. Another good exercise to look at is a dorsiflexion of your ankle again, so that pointing your foot and toes up. From a seated position, place the kettlebell over your toes and your foot, and then point your toes up in the air and then lower them back down to being horizontal. Try not to take it any further than horizontal, otherwise that kettlebell is likely to fall off your foot. And again, we're looking from that strengthening point of view, so do 12 to 15 and see how you get on. And do both sides and see if you notice a difference. So a good progression from the exercise that you have just done is adding a calf raise in. So on one foot, you're going to have the kettlebell in that raised dorsiflexion position, and that's going to stay there. Your other foot, you're then going to do calf raises with. So you're going to go up and down onto the balls of your feet. And then again, repeat on both sides. You see, I'm just balancing and having my weight against the chair just to help that balance a little bit more so I can focus on my legs and shins moving quite nicely. So if you've got any questions, as always, just give me a message. But these are all things that we would be focusing on from any training programs and any goals that we're really looking to set. So as I say, just drop me a message if you've got any questions.